Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Wednesday Wisdom. My name is JB Hilliard, and these are weekly video snippets designed to answer questions that you may have about estate planning or probate, which are my primary practice areas. But sometimes I answer or like to answer questions you may have about other legal concerns or other legal areas that may be impacting your household. And so for this week, this message is specifically for those of you out there who own businesses or own a certain percentage interest in business entities. And if you hadn't already heard, back in 2021, Congress enacted this thing called the Corporate Transparency Act. And this was designed or is designed primarily to fight money laundering, tax fraud, and terrorism funding through those shell corporations that people tend to create to hide what they're actually doing. And so this law came into effect as of January 1st, 2024, and requires certain corporations, LLCs, and other entities doing business in the United States to report information ultimately about who controls the business. And so this information is to be submitted to the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, or I call it FinCEN, FINCEN, which, in case you didn't know, is actually a bureau of the U.S. Department of Treasury. So I just want to really give you a very brief summary of that CTA, the Corporate Transparency Act, so you know who's supposed to report and what you're supposed to report. So the basics of who has to report is basically entities created or registered through a filing with your respective Secretary of State in your jurisdiction, or any similar office that is the overseer of registering new businesses within that state. And these business entities are to report on their beneficial owners. That's what FinCEN is calling this. And so a beneficial owner is any individual who exercises substantial control over that entity, or who owns or controls at least 25% ownership in that, an ownership interest in that entity. Now, of course, since we're talking about the government, and really generally speaking, with every rule, there are exceptions. And that's no different in this case. So there are actually, I think I remember seeing there are about 23 different types of entities that are exempt from this reporting requirement, including publicly traded companies, nonprofit organizations, and then what they're calling large companies, which are companies with more than 20 employees, full-time employees, and that have gross revenues of at least or more than $5 million. So if you're a sole practitioner or a small business that doesn't quite, hit that threshold, then these reporting requirements are applied to you. And so if you had your business prior to January 1st, 2024, you actually have until January 1st, 2025 to submit your beneficial owner report. So we basically have all year to do this, but don't wait till the last minute, because you will forget. But if you created or if you create a new business entity anytime during 2024, from January 1st to December 31st of this new year, then you will have 90 days from the date of that creation. So let's say you officially create your business, you have an LLC that you've created, and you submit your registration paperwork with the Secretary of State. So based upon that date, then you'll have 90 days from there to submit your beneficial owner information to FinCEN. Now, if you create a new business after 2024, after December 31st of 2024, then you will only have 30 days from the date of your business creation to submit this information to FinCEN. Now, you may now be asking, well, what information needs to be reported? So this will include things like the business name, of course, business address, tax ID, And then for the beneficial owner, it will be the owner's name, address, date of birth, and then some identifying image from either a passport or driver's license or state ID, something like that. But please understand this filing is, well, based upon what I've seen, and I still have to do my own, so I'm going to try to do that in the next couple of weeks. But it should be simple, it should be secure, and most importantly, it is free of charge. And it should only take you actually literally a few minutes to do this. So please also be aware that this beneficial owner reporting is not an annual requirement. So for those of us registered for example, in Georgia, for the Secretary of State, we have our annual registration. So we have to pay that fee every year and renew our registration to stay current. This is a one and done situation unless you do have changes to your business information, like the address or even the business name, or you have information that needs to be updated on those beneficial owners. And this I actually typed out to read verbatim because this is quoted right from the FinCEN website. So they've been notified of recent fraudulent attempts, of course, to solicit information from individuals and entities who may be subject to reporting requirements under the Corporate Transparency Act. This fraudulent correspondence may be titled Important Compliance Notice and asks the recipient to click on a URL or to scan a QR code. Those emails or letters are fraudulent. FinCEN does not send unsolicited requests. Please do not respond to these fraudulent messages or click on any links or scan any QR codes within them. Okay? So I know that was a lot of information, quick, fast, and in a hurry. But if you want to delve a little deeper to get, maybe you have some additional questions, I've included a link on my website on our resources page that explains this in a little more detail and provides some additional information for you. So feel free to peruse that. But make sure, business owners, you submit your information. Do it sooner versus later so you don't forget, and just take care of that and get one more thing off of your to-do list. All right, so with that said, as always, I thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.